What is up, guys? Welcome to It's All About MLS. We are going to be talking about this article that came out overnight. Ooh, it is it is definitely an interesting one. Um, Definitely one to keep our eyes on. What's interesting about it? What's interesting about it is how the MLS is aiming to launch a new U.S. Lower Division League 2022, sources say, and so the MLS is apparently in advanced planning stages, as this article says, of a lower division league intended to serve as a link between the MLS Next academies and first team rosters. Sources with knowledge the plan to tell the athletic. And if we don't remember last year around this time, I believe there was a huge article that came out. A lot of people were upset. A lot of people had no idea that was going to happen or anything like that. And what actually happened was that people were were telling and saying, "Hey, like, what's happening here with the academies? Like, what are you guys planning?" But I personally thought that what they were planning, there was so many academies out there where it's hard to scout talent when there's so many teams. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were just a bunch of different teams, and so it was hard to keep a track of um, which talent is coming from, where to go for the players and stuff like that. Yeah, obviously you had your good academy. Obviously, everyone knew to go for those. But in terms of like the smaller ones, I mean, it was just a whole lot, and so they decided to create the MLS Next academies. Obviously, like selecting certain academies and graphic instead of there being a whole bunch of different demographic. But anyway, the new competition will kick off with the 2023 season, so next year. While the format is still being finalized, it will likely align with MLS's spring to fall schedule, with the potential for a postseason. The name and public framing of the new league is also yet to be finalized. I think this is so interesting because when you look at MLS, one of the things that I think could draw a whole bunch of people towards the MLS is if there was some sort of way to kind of almost just be like, hey, like what's going on over here, like it's just a whole mess. It's literally just a whole mess because there could be a pro rel league, which the fans, which is the most important thing, not the owners, the fans are the most important thing here. And they've been crying out for this, pleading. Yes, I get that the owners are more satisfied and it's safer for the owners financially and whatnot. But the fans have been crying out for promotion relegation. Why? Because it brings a whole different level of competitiveness. It brings a whole different of, small club going all the way to the top and making it up there and playing the best teams and fans just being more passionate about their team because there's something on the line. Currently in the MLS, there is nothing on the line. Sure, there's prize money for how high you finish and trophies and whatnot, and you've got the Seattles, the NYFCs, the New York Red Bulls, the Atlanta Uniteds, the LAFCs that are always going to be competitive. Sorry if I forgot anyone. But at the end of the day, you don't have that extra competitive edge where people will be able to qualify for different tournaments, where you'll be fighting to stay in a league, where the ownership group is going to be held responsible and will have to bring their A game because if they don't, well, guess what? They're going to be playing in the second division, not the first. And so it's just interesting with all of this. But let's read on. The new circuit is expected to launch with over half of MLS's clubs fielding teams per source. Additionally, it's expected that as the league grows, independent clubs will join as MLS looks to heighten the level of competition in the new venture. While it's possible that existing lower league clubs could join, a source indicated that the league is expected to field new teams, including some participation from independent members of the MLS Next Academy structure. It's unclear what the eventual cap will be on the number of participating clubs as the league develops. So there's two different directions I think they could go here with all of this. So from independent members of the MLS Next academy structure. So I think what they're trying to do is kind of incorporate, kind of, get away from that college system, which I personally think doesn't, as a whole, it's not the best route in terms of developing players that are going to be competitive on a world stage. I think it slows players down. I think it just really limits them because when you go to college, I was a D1 college athlete like a few years ago. Not like 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. No, like 2 years ago. And and I came from an MLS academy, one of the top academies in the US at the time. Actually, we lost in the championship against Chicago. Um, but one thing I think that people don't realize here is what you're getting from all of this is a literal, like, better structure in terms of that. But I disagree in the way that they're going about it. I disagree with that because if you look at the USL Championship, right, there are 31 teams. If you look at USL League 1, there's 12 teams currently, I believe. And if you look at the USL League 2, which or obviously formerly known as PDL, there's 84 teams. And then if you look at the MLS, there's 27 teams. Putting all of those together, you have 154 teams. 154 teams. Let's look how many like clubs how many clubs are in England. Like in the whole England structure, right? So the football league, those are like the EFL competitions. You have 69, right? Um, and and okay, whatever. That's probably EFL, then EFL League One, and then League Two. Then I'm not sure if there's a League Three, and then you have the Conference and the Premier League, right? I'm I'm willing to bet that the MLS is up there in terms of the amount of teams that they have. Given that the US is a much bigger country, I get that. I really do. But there's got to be some sort of filtering system where teams are able to actually develop players. Teams are able to kind of work their way up financially and soundly, and they've got to be able to figure that. And I think that's the best part about this. I really do, because the MLS is such a young organization that they don't have the backing of, former leagues, like having a whole generation in the past and having to kind of copy that. No, they've actually just got a whole new league, their new setup, whatever, and they can take it in a certain direction after seeing how many different leagues they have been in the past. Um, and so this, okay, so we're here. The new circuit is expected to launch with over half. Okay, we already read that. The finer details also represent an evolution from the league's plans last year, uh, which the Athletic reported in October. Instead of being a strict U23 reserve league, there is expected to be an age cap roster restriction. There isn't expected to be an age cap roster restriction. The number of on the number of overage players per team. The idea is for the format to be flexible, to be utilized however each MLS organization sees fit. That's dumb. Still, the primary focus of the competition is to increase access to game minutes for young players coming out of academies. Again, I think it's a better way to do this, a better structure of. Anyway, as the rate of players graduating from youth setups continues to rise each year. I don't know where to go from here because I agree with the fact of this last one. The rate of players graduating from youth setups continues to grow each year as soccer is becoming a big sport in the US. That's common sense. Now, the one thing I don't necessarily agree with is this. Instead of being a strict U23 reserve, there isn't expected to be an age cap or roster restriction. Like, I don't think, okay, I think there should be an age cap. For example, in the Olympics, there's, I don't know, you know, what is it, three over the age of 23 players, something like that, can be involved or whatever. In England, it's the same thing. I don't think you can just field whoever you want to the U23 squad. Like, I know that some players, whatever, like when they're coming back from an injury, whatever, they'll they'll play in the U23 game or like a reserve game, whatever, get minutes to get fit, right, to work your way back to the first team. Sure, that makes sense. But when you're when you're not limiting players or there's no cap restriction on or age cap restriction or roster restriction on the number of overage players, what's stopping a team from bringing in, I don't know, a whole bunch of different players and just being like, hey, cool, all right, like, let's do this, let's do that. Like at the end of the day, it's important to continue the growth and to allow players to develop. That's the biggest thing. Like here, look at this. I found this tweet by Taylor Twellman, and this is France's U21 squad for the upcoming championship that they're bringing. This right here, like if you look at this, it is mind blowing. It is gonna blow your mind when you see it, whenever it wants to load. Um, but when you see it, it's just like whoa, like what are France doing, right? Okay, so here, geez, sorry. So here, he plays for Leeds. Messler plays for Leeds. I don't know who plays for. He plays for Liverpool now. He just signed for Liverpool. He just signed for Bayern Munich. He plays, oh, I believe he used to play for PSG. I don't know where he plays anymore. I know that Chelsea are interested in signing this guy. He's a really good player who a lot of clubs have seen OR. He's a lot of teams who a lot of people have been keeping an eye on. And so it's just these little things, right? Like, and guys, this doesn't even include Camavinga, who's supposed to be the best, one of the best like central midfielders in the next generation. Diaby, he's a baller, man, like an absolute baller. And then Icon, like I remember watching this guy. What was it? What it was a few years ago where I think played him, and man, this team is full of like absolute balls. But anyway, find it so weird. Like these guys are already playing for the first teams, right? These guys are already like having their say on the squad, whatever. But they're not being called up to their first team of their national team, yet they're here. And somehow the US thinks that going against the grain of salt that is already seen in Europe and whatnot is already a lot better. This paragraph here is really interesting, and we'll end it on these next few because we just like I could go on and on. You know that this goes on a while, whatever. But anyway, since the 2014 season, several MLS sides have fielded affiliated teams, colloquially known as MLS 2 teams, in the USL Championship, which is the second division, or the USL League 1. There are currently 7 MLS 2 teams in the championship and 4 in League 1 ahead of this season. 3 MLS teams, Orlando, Philadelphia, and Portland, folded their affiliations or affiliates, while a source with knowledge confirmed that multiple MLSC teams remain in the USL in 2022 as participation in the new MLS League's first season will not be mandatory for US-based teams. It's likely that some will leave the USL after the 2021 season. It is unclear if Canadian clubs will be able to field teams in the Canadian Soccer Association declined to allow Ottawa Fury to play in the second division of the USL after the launch of the Canadian Premier League. However, a source indicated that MLS has recently held productive discussions with the Canadian Federation, which could open clubs to teams in 2022. While the launch of a new competition is likely to raise questions about a potential clash between MLS and the USL, it's worth repeating part of the Athletics report from October. MLS is expected to file a sanction for the new league soccer federation this week. Source: this would allow the league to function with far lower sanctioning requirements as it gets up and running. Most relevantly, the minimum 1,000 stadium capacity. This would allow participants to either play their first team stadium or at smaller venues, which may provide fans watching upcoming plays. like okay, the thing I don't get about MLS2, whatever, if there is a production system in which MLS teams have players in the USL Championship and they're being filtered through to the first team, which by the way I have not seen enough of. I have not seen enough of the MLS producing players as a whole and being more strict with these players. Like, it doesn't make sense to create another league when I can guarantee you that nothing will change. This is just another way for the MLS to make money, to find a way to make money through new sponsorship deals and TV deals, broadcast deals, whatever you want to call it. Like, this does not make sense whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, who suffers from all of this? The players do. The players keep on suffering. The young development of the players keep on suffering because unless these players are going to Europe, like unless these players are going to Europe, nothing is changing. Absolutely nothing is changing. That's soccer pyramid. And if you look at this right here, like here's a picture of the pyramid as is, right? Like you have here, this is 2020, so it's not updated or whatever, but not a whole lot has changed from this. Like you have the MLS here. Now, what they're wanting to do is, I'm assuming they wanted to create a league, which would probably fall in the second highest tier here alongside the USL Championship, right? And then they would want to kind of put these two as like the two important leagues. One, I don't think that's the best way to go about it. Like, what's the issue with the USL Championship right there? Like, why aren't teams going to the USL Championship, scouting players there, and bringing them up? Either one, like the development's not good enough in the USL Championship for teams in the MLS not to be recruiting players from the USL Championship, or like what's the point of there even being an MLS 2 league if we're just going to keep on trying to bring players from abroad and stuff like that? Not that I'm opposed to it, but players are having to fight for their lives. Players are like it's one thing if players can make a living in USL Championship or USL Champion League One or League Two. Like these guys are getting scraps. USL League Two is a PDL. Sure, some people get paid, some people don't. USL League Two, I mean League One, is the league where I don't know what they're getting. What like 3,000, maybe 4,000 a week, whatever, plus housing. I don't know what it is. Like it is hard on its own to. I don't ever think it's 3, 4,000. I don't know. I think it's subsidized. But you get my point. Like you can't even live off of this. Here, let's look at USL League One salary. Here we go. All right. I don't know. I don't even know where to find this. Um, Here. So according, so this article K Fox 14 reads the league's original proposal submitted May 9th stated if a player, this is in the Players Association, I'm sure. Okay, we can just read it from the league. So they wanted, this is in regarding minimum salary, but in an effort, players offered to take a 10% cut of remaining 2020 salaries above 2,000 per month in consideration for the following. The league matching the players' salary cuts, clubs' agreements to a minimum salary of 20,000 beginning in 2021. That means they don't ever make 20,000. Like this is this is at the USL Championship last year around this time. The league agreeing to increase its bargaining frequency to every 14 days until a collective bargaining reach. This counter proposal, players making 2,000 per month or lower would not be affected. Implementing a salary floor is something that the league also incorporated into their May 7 request for economic relief. This sheds light for the need of a minimum salary moving forward. This has been a primary concern for players and a drawn-out collective bargaining process. Also, under the players' counter proposal, any clubs willing to be able to honor the original term 2020 player contracts may elect to do so. So, guys, players in the USL League Championship, not even all of them earn 20,000 a month. Like they don't even earn 20,000. Like, can you imagine that? According to the same USL player, so they who remained anonymous, yeah, the average salary ranges from 25 to 30,000. Like, guys, these are guys that are super talented, dedicated, whatever, and they're just doing 20 to 30,000. Some of them living in New York or more expensive cities. Guys, it's hard to make a living off that. Like super hard. Guys, I just hope the MLS has a more clear out and panned way of going about this because if they don't, well, I don't think anything changes. I really don't. I really don't. You know what's interesting too? What's super interesting about all of this is this. Here, I'll show you. Like this is very, very interesting actually, I think. So, looking at this US men's national team roster, right? How many players are actually even coming from our own? This is for the Honduras thing, which is perfect because we're going to transition into that right now. But you look at this: Zach Steffen, Manchester City, David Ochoa. So we're going to count the MLS players right here. So one here, two. I'm going to count Reggie Cannon. Just moved there. At least, guys. Two. Okay. Three, four. See, like if you look at this, right? Four, Jackson Yules, and five, Sebastian Nane. Um, it's sad because you look at all of this and you're just like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Why do we only have three players in our whole thing if we brag about the competition and this men's national team? Guys, this is a very young squad, by the way. Very, very young squad. And we're going to transition into this. So I think the US men's national team, obviously coming off a defeat to Switzerland, really should have been more than in my opinion, more than 2-1. Should be like 3-4. I mean, I only tuned in for like the last 20 minutes, but man, those last 20 minutes were just brutal. Like, like it was very, very brutal. Um, anyway, and what's interesting here is we're gonna try to predict the squad, right? Um, and we're gonna try to see kind of what's going on here, who's gonna start, kind of thing. Um, yeah, I personally don't think this U.S. men's national team can do anything in the next World Cup. I personally think if they make it out of the group stage on its own, that on its own is a big achievement. Personally, um, yeah, I think I think what we're gonna go for here is, and let's pick what color are they going for? Probably like a darker, right? Um, and probably like yeah, I can see them wearing either that or like the whole white. Anyway, all right, I can see him doing this right here. So there's a holding midfielder, and then you've got fullbacks over here. And what I actually see is Zach Steffen. I think he's got that number one place on lock. And then for the centre backs, I have to go with Brooks and then you know I think this is actually like such a competitive spot, and I'll tell you why. Because I actually do believe, uh, I'm gonna go with Matt Diaz for this, and let's kind of see what happens. I don't know. I'm going with John Brooks and Matt Diaz, and then I'm going with Dest here. Even though, like, he's one of the best players for the US right now, hands down. But personally, I don't think. he's all that great. Personally, I think like they expose him a lot in Spain for it, but it is whatever. I think Adams here starts, and then I think here we're gonna have Musa, and then here I think we're gonna have McKenny. Um, yeah, here we're gonna have McKenny, and let's see. Going into the forwards, I think this is pretty much set. Like Pulisic here, and then Rain is gonna start here, and then like I think the only thing I can see happening really is you know I I think Sargent is gonna start, but if I'm being honest, I think Timothy Ware should start. Timothy Ware should start. So I would personally put Ware here, or like switch him and Reina, and so that it kind of looks like this with him coming kind of deep, and then them two kind of starting here, or Pulisic kind of playing down the middle. Like either or, I could see either of that happening. Um, but I think it's gonna be very interesting to see. I think Reina, and the reason I think Reina is better there, I think when like we saw against Switzerland, I think here we start with an out and out number 10, number 9, and then I think when we go face a bigger team, I think it ends up being kind of like a 4-5-1, where oh 4-2-3-1. I personally think where Musa and Adams are in here, or you, and then you have Ware, him, and then I think that's when it's between Ware and Reina, and then an out and out number 9 striker kind of hold them. But this is the team I'm going for. Um, I think it's going to be interesting to see if it is the team that ends up like being in it, and I will actually take a screenshot of this to keep myself accountable. But I don't know what I'm going for. It's for now. I'm gonna have to go. But anyway, um, yeah, that's kind of what I can see kind of happening here. McKenny there, Adams here, Musa, McKenny, Pulisic, um, and is this is honestly like the prediction I'm going for. Um, I can see Sargent starting, and I'm not too sure about the centre backs. I'd hope John Brooks starts because he's one of the more experienced guys on this roster. Like this team on its own is very very young already, and yeah, I think it's going to be interesting already as is, and I think it's gonna be a good game. Some of the things I'd watch out for, in my opinion, is I expect the US to win 2-0 or 3-0. Again, get all the confidence, and then uh, I just wish like the competition was tougher this side. I really do, because then we'll get a true picture. Because when we played Switzerland, like we got destroyed, and they didn't bring like all their stars. Like they were, I don't know. Let me not say anything. Um, so some of the things to watch for is like there were some half chances, I think, um, and the U.S. is going to have to be more clinical. And I think the Honduras defense is going to be very, very physical. They're going to be physical as is, which is why I went for John Brooks and Yaga and Robinson, um, because they've been playing in Europe, and they're used to like the physicality of those leagues, obviously, and then the experience that they bring as well. Um, I think Pulisic is going to be key. I think Pulisic is going to grab a goal or assist for sure at least, and yeah, but guys, that is all that I have for today. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for tuning in on the convo. It was a lot of fun, and we'll be we'll be back. We'll definitely be back. We'll be back sometime sometime tomorrow, probably sometime tomorrow. So again, thank you so much, and we would really hope that would really hope that would really hope that the U.S. win this weekend. It's a massive game, in my opinion, for them to not win. The Nations League brings a more competitive aspect to it, I think, and I'm not really opposed to it. But again, all about MLS. Please like or subscribe, and we out.